Hello and welcome here to MoreTalkFCB, and welcome to something today that is brand new on the channel, because we are going to be looking ahead to the Premier League weekend and discussing the big talking points heading into Saturday, the title race, the European race, the latest news from all of the teams involved. It is all coming up for you today. I hope you're going to enjoy this new concept here, and once you've had a listen, once you've checked it out, please do let me know all of your feedback in the comments down below. So without further ado, let's do this. Because let's first of all begin with the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday, starting here with Brighton up against Everton. And once again, it's Roberto De Zerbi's Brighton that are going to be in the spotlight, particularly there after he does continue to be linked with the Barca job. And of course, Brighton, they're always a good team to watch. They're always a good team to keep a close eye on there with the football that they play. And they were absolutely irresistible last weekend there against Sheffield United. They won by 5-0 in that game. The football on display was absolutely sublime, and of course they were helped by the fact they were playing Sheffield United, the bottom team there in the league, and given that Sheffield United were reduced to 10 men after just 13 minutes, obviously that helps. But I think it's an important stage of the season here for Brighton. They're still in a very good position. They're 7th in the league right now, and they are looking to qualify once again for European football. That would be a real achievement to back up what they achieved last season, to replicate that kind of level. But they do have Newcastle and Chelsea who are going to be pushing them in these final stages of the season, and it will be important that they beat Everton this weekend. Then we do cross over to Aston Villa versus Nottingham Forest on Saturday, where Villa do currently still occupy a spot in the top 4 in the Premier League. They are currently 2 points ahead of Tottenham there and 5 ahead of Man United, but the big question is, can they maintain that lead there in the top 4? Because they have suffered a few very painful results of late. That loss to United was a real heartbreaker, because those two teams are ultimately fighting for the same position, and there is a feeling just starting to creep in here of our Aston Villa just starting to fall away. Because remember at the start of the season, guys, under Unai Emery, with the signings they made as well, they were absolutely incredible. The kind of football they were playing, the way they were taking games to teams and ultimately ripping them apart. You know, there were several weeks there where Villa were actually towards the top of the league, battling there in the title positions. But can they now find something to get themselves over the line in the latter stages now of the season, when the demands are at their absolute maximum? Because they do as well, to be fair, have so many key players out injured right now. They are just trying to find results and keep themselves in the Champions League places. But can they do it? Do you believe Villa will finish in the top 4, or despite all of their great football, might they miss out? Because speaking of Manchester United, indeed, that brings us on to their home game this weekend against Fulham, and it's a big one for them as well, because now Sir Jim Ratcliffe's £1.3 billion deal to take over 27% of the club was officially completed this week. So that was great news there for Man United fans, and Ratcliffe says that he wants to knock Liverpool and Man City off their perch, and he said that he wouldn't wish Man City to be guilty of the 115 charges against them, but instead he wants to smash them on the pitch. So Ratcliffe there with fighting talk. He wants to bring United back where they belong, but United fans will be looking not for talk, but for action. They are already targeting, apparently, Newcastle's highly rated director of football, Dan Ashworth. He's already said to be in Ratcliffe's sights there. The 52-year-old is reportedly willing to swap Newcastle's project for Man United's this summer, but it is already being said too that Erik ten Hag will sit down at the end of the season for crisis talks, showdown talks there with the United hierarchy. Will he be the man to lead them forward into the future? But I think the big question this weekend is, how are United going to deal without Rasmus Højlund? Because he will miss the game there after he picked up a muscle problem, which should keep him sidelined there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks of action. And of course he has been in remarkable form, which I think is great. You know, he had such a difficult start to his United career, such a young player there with a huge transfer fee on their head, so much expected of them. And we also know as well, leading United's front line, it has not been an easy task over the past few years, but he's really bounced back in recent weeks, their goals in 6 successive games, but he will not be there against Fulham. And will Ten Hag find the solution on Saturday? As we also do have Crystal Palace coming up against relegation-threatened Burnley as one of the 3 p.m. kickoffs as well. And this is a clash here from the bottom half of the table. Both teams are really struggling for any sort of form, and this will be a big game for Oliver Glasner, who has been officially appointed there as the new Crystal Palace manager, replacing Roy Hodgson there at the club. And Palace will be hoping for an immediate turnaround in form, because it has been a really tricky start to the new year for them. And of course, Glasner, we know very well indeed, because he had an incredible Europa League run back in 2022 with Eintracht Frankfurt. Of course, they knocked out Barcelona on the way to their Europa League triumph, and Glasner is highly rated there, coming over from Germany. And what will he be able to do with Palace in the Premier League? Before we do now move on to the 5:30 kickoff slot, and this week it is Bournemouth against Man City. And of course, the City, every game right now is absolutely vital in terms of the title race. And my big question when you're looking at City, with all the good results that they have, with all the wins that they can string together, I am just wondering, when is their relentless period going to start? Because recently they did go on a long run there of wins, win after win after win, until that Chelsea game, which really frustrated them. But I'm just not talking about City winning here. I'm wondering when they're going to lock in. You know, that second half of the season, we've seen it so often with Pep Guardiola Man City teams, whereby the second half of the season comes, the stakes are raised, the pressure is on, and they just motor their way to another title. That's just what happened. That's what Man City do. And I'm wondering, when are they going to fully lock in? Is it going to be this weekend? Are we going to see them put several goals past Bournemouth, who have had a few tricky results of late, haven't really been able to get the win that they were a little while ago under Iraola? But I would expect City this weekend to turn up the heat, and I would expect a multi-goal win from Pep Guardiola's team, which then brings us on to the all-important 8 p.m. kickoff Saturday night football. It is Arsenal up against Newcastle, and there are so many questions I feel about this game. First one, can Arsenal bounce back for what they produced against Porto in midweek in the Champions League? It was a big game for them, massive game in their season. They've got a real opportunity there to reach the quarter-final of the Champions League on their return to the competition, and yet they didn't show up in Portugal. They simply did not. They did not have a single shot on target in that game, and they were completely and utterly flat. And of course, they're still in the tie. They got the home second leg to come. They still fancy their chances of getting through the game, but it's just not what we've come to expect from Arsenal. Under Arteta, they're usually so up for it, aren't they? They're prepared, they're energetic, they're always lively in the final third. And I think it's going to be really interesting here how they bounce back this weekend, because coming up against Newcastle, that is not an easy game here to just jump back into. You've been away in the Champions League there in midweek, you've come back now, you've got a Saturday game. Newcastle have had the whole week to prepare, to rest for this game, and they're going to be up for it. Newcastle, we know, have the quality in their squad, they've got the capability there to win in big matches against big teams. And Arsenal, they're going to have to raise their level, they're going to have to be more sharp, they're going to have to be more up for it there in the final third. And can they bounce back? Because when you're looking at the title race, it is very much on in the Premier League. Liverpool right now are leading everyone. They play the cup final this weekend against Chelsea, so they won't be in action. So there's a real chance there for City and Arsenal to apply pressure. Because in these final weeks of the season here, it's all about managing that pressure, you know, putting it on your opponents, making sure that you're there, always in the rear view mirror, and just waiting for mistakes, looking at where they're going to happen. And when they do, you've got to pounce on them. You have to capitalise on mistakes. And guys, if I had to ask you right now, who do you believe will win the Premier League? Will it be Liverpool? Will it be Man City? Could it be Arsenal who lift the crown this season? Please do let me know what your predictions would be for the title race, and indeed for the games coming up that we've discussed on Saturday. And let me know as well, did you enjoy this new concept? Is this something that you would like to see happen more frequently? Are there other games, other leagues that you'd like to see me focus on? And how would you like it all to be done? Let me know all the feedback you have. I'm more than happy to listen and take that on board. So I'll be waiting to hear all of your thoughts, and thank you indeed to all of you who did tune in for the brand new concept today. I will catch you soon, and enjoy the football this weekend. But until next time, as always, you've been watching More Talk FCB.